A lot of people work 9 to 5 jobs or close enough. You get up in the morning, you go to work, you get home, do your thing, and then you go to bed. But that's when the night shift worker's day begins. Many jobs require people to work all the way through the night, and as we've learned here from all our scary videos on this channel, there are plenty of creepy things that go bump in the night. These are the first-hand accounts from people who saw things when the rest of us were all asleep. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the top 10 scary night shift stories. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the military ghost. This one comes from a guy who said he did his military training at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. The barracks were at least 50 years old by this point. Every night, new recruits were told to stay awake for an hour and mop the floor until the next soldier was woken up to take over. One night, the guy, Jack, was sitting underneath the speakers trying to stay awake when a voice came out of them. Now usually it was one of his commanding officers barking orders to wake up, but this time it was different. A soft woman's voice could be heard, barely even a whisper. She said, "Private, get everyone outside, right now. Right now, Private, everyone outside." He was surprised, not because it was a woman, as he did have female drill sergeants, but because the voice was so soft. Jack headed down the hallway where he found another guard also standing duty. He asked him if he had heard the voice. The guard said no. Jack thought it must have just been his imagination and didn't want to risk waking everyone up just because his mind was playing sleepy tricks on him. The rest of the night was normal, and Jack put it to the back of his mind until weeks later. One day they had a 3-day field training exercise. On the last day they all sat around a fire and everyone swapped stories. The drill sergeant shared some stories of the base. Jack's sergeant told a story of the first female drill sergeant on that base. She was harassed so much that it was unrelenting, and then one day she snapped. She hung herself from some exposed water pipes using her belt. A few years later they plastered over the exposed pipes. The reason? So they could put the speakers up there on the wall. Next up at number 9 now, we have the wedding party. This one comes from Reddit user Pyking9000. He said when he was in high school he worked for a catering company, so his hours would often be very late. On one such night he was resetting a room for a wedding that was happening the next day. A co-worker told him to go upstairs and get some chairs from the room that had just hosted a wedding that night. When he got to the room he noticed there were still people in there, chatting away and having a good time. He was confused and told them the wedding had already ended. He took the chairs down and told his co-worker there were still guests up there. He asked if they needed anything else from that room or should they just wait for them to leave. It was the co-worker's turn to look confused now. He said he'd just been up to that room as well and didn't remember seeing anyone up there at all. They went up to the room and sure enough the room was completely empty and looked like it had been for hours. Some Redditors think this may have been a ghostly echo of a wedding that has already happened years ago, or perhaps they were spirits looking to recreate the good times they'd had in life. Moving on to number 8 now, we have a story from UltiMabdon316. He said that one night he was working at a fancy hotel next to an airport. One night he got a call from a lady in room 204. She said there was arguing, loud banging and crying from the room next to her. He checked the computer, but the system showed there was nobody in that room due to maintenance issues. Confused, he called his supervisor to see what to do. She told him to call the on-site security and follow them up with a key. When they stepped out of the elevator, they heard the sound of crying. It was loud. His heart started racing as he neared the door. The security guard put the key in, opens up the door and flicks on the light. As they enter the room, the shower is on, steam coming out from underneath the door. There was only one lamp on in the room. The air was very cold, and then he saw her. A woman, stripped down to her underwear, was lying on the bed sobbing. As they approached, she rolled over. She was pale, covered in blood, and just staring at them. At that moment they realized the shower had stopped and the door was open. There in the doorway was a huge, ominous looking man. Security tased and arrested him. It turns out that he was a criminal who was hiding in hotel rooms to kidnap and sexually assault women who stayed there, sometimes murdering them afterwards. At number 7 now, we have swinging. Smash Lee Pimpson is the Reddit user who shared this story. He said that he worked in a department store where every year before Christmas he would have to stay overnight to sort out all the new merchandise. One year he was stuffing a duvet into a bag when all of a sudden a picture frame that was just hanging up a few aisles away crashed to the ground and smashed everywhere. He was too tired to care and went to the back to get a dustpan and brush. There were plastic bags of clothes hung up on a conveyor belt on the ceiling. As he looked up he saw one single bag was swinging hard. It was banging around as if if someone had just shoved it moments ago. No other bags were moving. He freaked out and quickly grabbed a dustpan and brush and left. However, when he got to the smashed picture frame, it was gone. All of it. None of the other employees there knew what he was talking about, and the memory of that night has never quite left him. At number 6 now we have the girl. This one comes from Banksy420, who said they work in a restaurant that has its own bakery attached. All the bakery staff would always talk about the ghost of a little girl who haunted the whole place, but he didn't know that when he started the job. One day things were moving quite slow, and so he did some prep work by himself in the kitchen. He was at the prep table, kind of zoning out and just listening to music. Then he felt someone right next to him, as if they were shoulder to shoulder, a sudden presence that wasn't there before. Then he heard a little girl's voice very sweetly say, "Hi Josh, how are you?" He said he even felt her breath as the words were spoken. He said it felt so vivid, but when he turned around, there was nobody there. He told his co-workers this, and they weren't too surprised. They were all quite familiar with the ghost of the little girl. They just learned to not answer her back. Moving on to number 5 now, we have the dolls. One girl said she used to work the night shift at a Greasy Spoon diner. There were usually a lot of drunk people there. Another waitress finished at 4 AM, so she was usually alone until 7 AM. One night her co-worker left and then returned just a few seconds later. She had a weird half smile on her face and said, someone put something on your car. Judging by her look, she knew it wasn't good. She went out to see every inch of her car was covered in naked dolls. There were hundreds of them. Cabbage Patch, Barbies, baby dolls, you name it, it was there. They all had different shapes and sizes. The only thing they all had in common was that they were completely naked. It took 55 trash cans to get rid of them. She was scared. In the nights that followed, she began to get very creepy calls at around 4:15 AM. It was a voice that would ask her if she liked the gift. The calls got angrier and more abusive as the nights went on, and then one night at 4:15 AM, the phone rang and all she heard was popping noises, no voices, and then the phone hung up. It's been 9 years since then and she hasn't been called since. She's curious about what happened, but also very glad it's all over. Next up at number 4 now, we have The Creature. This story was told by a woman who worked at a group home for disturbed youth. She said that 15 years ago she was sitting in the hallway and she just felt like she was being watched all night. It wasn't the kids, they were all in bed. It was an almost physical sensation, an unseen pressure pushing down on her. She cleaned out the linen closet in the hallway and left the door open when she was done. The hallway was so narrow that the door blocked it completely. Now, to her surprise, that feeling of being watched disappeared. Like a switch being flipped. Happy, she continued on like this for 2 more nights, and then on that 3rd night she was doing bed checks when something in the hallway caught her eye. She slowly turned her head to look down the hallway and froze. The linen closet door was now halfway open and there was a tall, elongated creature hunched over the back of the door, gripping it, its head peering out over it. It didn't have a face or clothes, but it was flesh coloured with elongated arms and legs. It stood at least 7 foot tall. Despite not having a face, she knew that it was staring at her. She ran to the staff office and sat huddled in the corner for 6 hours until the relief staff came. She told nobody but her family, and now all of us. At number 3 now, we have The Watcher. This one comes from Reddit user Baby Butter Blues. She said that after leaving college she got a job as a nanny for 2 elementary age girls. For the parents' anniversary they went on a week-long cruise, and so she babysat the kids. For the first few nights the 8-year-old would go into her room multiple times a night and wake her up. It was obvious she hadn't pre-planned what she was going to give as her reason for waking her up, so she would just stumble through an excuse on the spot, like, "I just wanted to make sure we are still going to the park tomorrow." The babysitter figured the girl was just missing her parents and feeling a bit unsettled, so she let it slide at first. However, by the 4th or 5th time she'd had enough. She told the girl not to wake her unless it was for an emergency. With that, she went to sleep for a few more hours. It wasn't to last though. Around 5 AM she woke up, but there wasn't any obvious reason for it. She just felt strange. She turned over and almost jumped out of her skin. The girl had brought over a chair right next to the bed and was staring at the babysitter. Her long black hair was draped over her expressionless face. The babysitter asked what she was doing. The girl simply said, "I just thought it would be fun to watch you sleep. I didn't wake you." That is where the story ends, but I presume at that point the babysitter was just sprinting down the road. That's what I do. Next up at number 2 now, we have the tapping. This one comes from Reddit user Ilanko. He said that his job in Canada involves him looking after a factory. On one winter night, it reached minus 30 degrees Celsius. It was a rough shift. One of his co-workers told him she'd cover him while he went for a quick nap in his car. He parked across the street from the plant so that his supervisor couldn't see him on the camera. With that, he fell asleep quickly. However, just 15 minutes later, he was woken up to the sound of tapping. It was around 3 AM, and by the time he pulled himself together and looked around, he saw, well, nothing. The parking lot was big and empty, but there was nobody there at all. Whoever tapped on his window must have been able to move incredibly fast or not even be human. He was too shaken to continue his nap and so decided to head back to work and tell his co-worker about what happened. She'd been working there longer and knew the area better. She didn't seem fazed when he told her what happened. She simply said, "Oh yeah, that happens all the time with everyone working the night shift. We don't know who or what it is." Can you even imagine? I think the scariest part of that is the possibility of it not being an animal or human. What do you guys think? I also think it was probably hiding under the car. How creepy is that? And finally, number 1 now, we have the dispatcher. Ariadne Hayes said that he used to work as a police emergency dispatcher for the police department in his city. He was working overnight once when a woman called in to say her depressed husband had gone missing. The police asked around and found out that he sometimes liked to go to an old cemetery and just be alone. With this lead, they sent 2 officers out there to look for him. When they got there, they saw the door to an old stone mausoleum was cracked open. They went in and stumbled through the dark underground rooms surrounded by the tombs of the dead. Then one of their flashlights caught a figure standing at the very back. It looked like they had their guy. They were relieved. They walked towards him, but it wasn't until they were right next to him they realized they had got it all wrong. They had found the right guy, but he wasn't standing, he was hanging. The ceiling was so low to the ground that his feet were barely an inch off the floor. The officers hightailed it out of there and told the dispatcher this very creepy story. Well, I guess I kind of enjoyed those even though they were really creepy. I hope you guys did too. I don't think I want to work night shifts though. That would probably involve me filming these videos by myself in a studio in the middle of the night. No thanks. What video do you want to see next though on the channel? Let me know. Thanks for watching guys. My name is Danny Burke and I'll see you all in the next one.